And now, here is Coretta MacDonald, Member of Parliament and host of Advancing the Cause.
Well, good evening to you all. Yes, I know that you're waiting and you're there and you're all excited about this other edition of Advancing the Cause. So, wherever you are, good night to you. Of course, you know, I have to send out all of those birthday requests, greetings, as a matter of fact. Let me extend the birthday greetings to all those who would have celebrated their birthdays yesterday, the day before, today, and the days before then. Happy belated birthday. Happy birthday to you. And of course, I want to extend a special birthday greeting to my aunt, Mrs. Cheryl Davis Weaver. Birthday to you, Auntie Cheryl. I know that this new chapter is going to be quite an exciting one, and we look forward to spending many happy days with you. Happy birthday again. And for all the other persons who would have celebrated their birthdays, happy birthday to you. But you know, we're going to start off this evening. Of course, we have a guest who's coming on a little later. And that guest is no stranger. But let's get very quickly into the highlights of this evening's program. And so, with our highlights, we start off by letting you know that COVID is on the rise again. COVID is on the rise again. So, folks, wear your mask, sanitize as often as possible, and try as far as possible to stay away from huge crowds. And if you have to be there, put on your mask. COVID is on the rise. And that is so because we would have had our numbers raging. As a matter of fact, we had two persons dying just about 2 days ago. Two persons dying from COVID at the hospital there. Two persons, two males, aged 43 and 96. And as of, I couldn't get it today, but as of yesterday, our total score, the total deaths, as a matter of fact, was 1,283. And let me say to you, those numbers are higher than that. We know those numbers are higher than that. But I just want to caution you that you need to take care because COVID is on the rise again. And we would have had 4 new COVID cases reported yesterday. Like I said, I couldn't get it today by the time we started this program, but 4 new COVID cases would have been reported, and that's only what we have documented at the COVID hospital there. Around this country, we have the COVID numbers going. So please, let's ensure that we take care of ourselves. And while we are on that sad part of it, we have 2 other sad issues to report. And those are one, Linden teacher, a teacher in Linden who was stabbed to death by her boyfriend after she decided that she doesn't want to be in this abusive relationship any longer. You know, it's sad. Another mother is dead. Another sister is dead. Another teacher is dead. We need to do something about this. Folks, we have got to be able to arrest this pandemic. Yes, I'm going to call it a pandemic too. And so let me at this time take time off to extend our condolences to the families of Teacher Kelly. Teacher Kelly was a very vibrant teacher in Linden, and we are indeed going to miss her in the teaching fraternity. More than that, her child is going to miss her. And her mother is going to miss her. So many persons are going to miss her. As a matter of fact, the learners that she was engaged with at the time of her death, they are going to terribly miss her. May her soul rest in peace. And then following that, we have another teacher who lost her life just recently at the Georgetown Hospital. Frank Anthony, you need to get this one right. You need to tap in here. And yes, we're hearing that an investigation has been launched, but many, many times we're having investigations being launched and you don't hear anything else coming out of it. This young lady has lost her life. She went there to have a procedure done, kidney stones. It was successful, and we don't know what happened after, but she's now dead. And she too was a teacher. We want to extend condolences to her family, her school family, her immediate family, and everyone else who knew this teacher, another vibrant teacher, is has gone to is now dead. We can't continue to lose our people. We cannot continue to do this. And so something is happening with the health sector. Something is happening there. We've got to fix it. Frank Anthony, lots and lots of monies were directed to your ministry. What is happening there? We're tired of hearing about launching of investigations and launching of investigations. What happens after these investigations were launched? What happens when you find people guilty? What happens? You're not, I mean, the investigations and whatever comes out of it would not be able to bring that person, return them to life or bring them back to life, as we would say. But we need to know what's happening. You got to fix it, Frank. And so it's sad when we lose our young people, um, as a result of neglect, as a result of abuse. And then we're moving off from that, and then we're going to the courts now. We saw a couple of days ago a young British citizen who assaulted the Guyanese critic. She was quickly passed through court and she was fined $15,000. But we are still asking, when is going to be the court day for this young man here, Ozzy Roberts? Rogers, sorry. Look what is happening there. When is going to be his court day? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And what we have seen is that he was given the green light. Green light he was given to return to the USA. When is going to be his court date? I tell you, Guyana can't be a real place. Guyana can't be a real place. Look, a man assaulting a woman in public in the eyes of so many others there. And we have not heard anything about a court date for this young man. I tell you, when you're flying in big circles, you can take advantage of people. And so this is where we are. And we're talking about men on mission, you know. I wonder if this young man was given a lesson coming out of the men on mission. And here it is, we're seeing a very, very popular figure within the circle of the PPP. And you know what? I've said it before. They have been cultured to do what is happening here, to assault and abuse women. And it's very, very sad. And I'm hoping that Men on Mission, which of course we know is a farce, that it's going to address these issues and to make people like Ozzy Rogers and the others, make them examples. And while we're on that, we got some information. I'm not sure how accurate that information is, but I would want to think that it's accurate. The information which is saying that, you know, the other Cosboard, Sharon Das, yes, that's the name of the guy. Sharon Das, who served or who is still serving, according to the invitation we saw there, as the ambassador to India. Of course, you know, we saw that video there when he abused that woman out in the most colorful way. We are seeing here an invitation which is saying that he is going to be the guest of honor at this function. Again, I'm hoping that as a people, we are recognizing that again, the president would have lied to us. He lied before and he has lied to us again. I mean, how can we trust these people when they continue to walk themselves in lies? Viewers, I hope you are listening. I hope you're paying attention to what is happening. These things, these misleading, this kind of misleading of the nation cannot go unpunished. And so here it is. I saw a response from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This incident happened since last year. It only came out recently, and when it came out recently and pressure was brought to bear, then we saw the president coming out there and saying, oh, Mr. Charandas has agreed to be recalled. He has agreed to be recalled. But here it is, we are seeing an invitation. But you know what? We are not going to bother so much with Sharon Das. What we are going to look at is the fact that the president of this country and the foreign affairs minister of this country, they came out and made statements. But look at what we're seeing here. Look at what we're seeing here. I am waiting to hear from the president. Lawlessness and more lawlessness. And as the lawlessness continue to multiply, we're seeing even more of it every day. Yesterday, we saw a motorcyclist, a motorist, unleashing some blows on a traffic rank in New Amsterdam. While we haven't yet covered that, we saw a little boy being held by police after snatching a phone. So you see, the lawlessness is multiplying and the number is getting larger. And so it's passing all the way down. Not even finished with that, we saw the police station at BV today. No flags. They're flying no flags in front of the police station, none whatsoever. Mr. Commissioner of Police acting, get your ranks to do what they're supposed to do, because there are certain things that you have to do. You have the police station, fly the police flag, fly the Guyana flag. Lawlessness again. Lawlessness. But folks, while we are looking at that, yesterday I have to cover these very quickly. Yesterday we saw several parts of this country underwater. Georgetown was not spared. And this is some of what we saw happening in Georgetown yesterday. And just Sunday last, we saw big cleanup exercise, big excitement about cleanup exercise. These things will continue to happen. As long as the PPP are there, these things will continue to happen to our citizens. And innocent citizens will have to pay for them. Innocent citizens will have to face these kinds of conditions. Many residents, their yards were flooded yesterday. Some of them, their homes were flooded yesterday. And we have this big talk about cleaning up and cleaning our environment and cleaning our environment as if this is something so it's a big issue, yes, but they're behaving as if this here just touched down, like the way Christopher Columbus said he discovered the West Indies, and he discovered here and he discovered there. The issue of cleaning, if we look at what happened during the coalition's stint in government, all through then we had this kind of water in our communities. But lo and behold, every time the PPP come around, we have these kinds of things. And so citizens, take care. Pull the grass from in front of your drains. Let's look out for ourselves and look out for each other so that we can be able to be the stand in between and have some of what is happening here not happen to us. And this is somewhere just by coffee, I think it is, somewhere by coffee that this happened. And this is the road that people traverse all the time, every day, whole day, all the time. And this is what is happening here. And you know why this is happening? Because the president and the prime minister and all the others, including Dharamlal, they have decided to do what the city council is supposed to be doing. They have taken on this by themselves and they don't know one thing about what they're doing there. And so we, the citizens, have to suffer. We have to suffer because they have decided that they're not going to allow the city council to function. As a result of that, this is what we're happening. But so much for our highlights for this evening. We're going to go straight to our guest this evening. Like I said, he's no stranger to these kinds of forums, and we're going to be here examining this whole issue about the Bing Bang, take it to the bank, 8%. Big bang announcement of the 8% across the board versus inflation. And our guest this evening is Mr. Jaipaul Sharman. He served as junior Minister of Finance. And so, Mr. Sharma, it's good to have you here with us again. I know this is right up your alley, where we're going to be talking about big bang, take to the bank, 8% across the board announcement versus inflation that we are having here. And I'm sure you saw the that announcement, you read that announcement by Mr. Ali, who is sitting as president of this country. And I'm sure you, just like other public servants, you're wondering whether this is real, whether this man is in his right mind when we look at the rate of inflation as against 8%. Your opening remarks.
Oh, thank you, Coretta, and thank you for having me in the program. First of all, let me give praise and thanks to our God for everything that He have done for us, doing for us, and will be doing. And we hope that your viewers and listeners will open their eyes and ears and see what is happening, know the truth. And indeed, Coretta and viewers and listeners, the 8% across the board increase means nothing to our public servant. Yes, it is money in your pocket, but in reality, it cannot help you with the cost of living situation we're facing here in Guyana. And that is the bottom line. And that is what we need to focus on. So your program is basically looking at the 8% and inflation. And, you know, the consumer uh, perception index would basically tell you what is the cost for a basket of standard food items and how it changes over month by month, basically. And what that will tell you is the rate of inflation. Now, the government themselves, which is the PAVC government, in the mid-year report, which was issued maybe in August, I think, that would have put the full year inflation at 5.8%, if I recall correctly. And this is the government. You know, you just mentioned the government don't tell you the truth, they lie all the time. So you will know that 5.8 is not what the inflation is. But in addition to that inflation, which is an across the board inflation, there is food inflation. And there is where it gets interesting because food inflation is not the 5.8 that the government is projecting, but it may be about 11%. Now, cross match that with your
8%.
8%.
Mhm.
And you know what's the price for eggplant, balanje, bora, um, fish, chicken, beef. You know, egg that we used to pay $600 a tray is now 15 or $1,700 a tray.
Yep.
$50 for one egg.
Mhm.
People don't sell egg ball no more in this country. You can't go and ask for an egg ball because you pay like $250 to $300 for an egg ball when a
Mhm.
loaf of bread is selling for around the same price.
Mhm.
So this is the reality of inflation. And every single Guyanese is facing this. But Guyanese is a people that remain very quiet, very silent, and they don't want to embarrass the government, their government, because they put them there. And but they're feeling it. I'm in Diamond. I go to the market. I go to the market personally myself. And senior citizens and even young people complain about the prices at the Diamond market.
Yeah.
Every single weekend I would go, they would be complaining, but none of them going to say anything. I don't know who is making the money, if it's the farmers is getting rich or if it's the vendor, the middleman is getting the money. But the fact is, we are taken advantage on in this country, and the government is doing nothing. The government is camouflaging this situation of cost of living by letting the international community know that they're doing so well and the people of Guyana is so happy by saying, here, we give you 10,000 house lot a year,
Mhm.
50,000 in 5 years. So people going to get land and they're going to build their homes. They said they're going to give you a reduction in the loan rate. I think they said it's reduced by 3.8%. But people are interested about loan, they're interested about food, eating, putting food on the table, feeding themselves and the children. That is what people interested in. So don't tell the people internationally that you're giving 10,000 house lot a year and you remove the VAT on cement. People don't eat cement. Don't tell them you're giving a reduction of 3.8% in the interest rate for loans. Don't tell them these things. People need things that will make them feel comfortable, feel better. So you have to pay rent, you have to pay increased transportation costs, you have to pay the increased costs of food, basic food. What the government is doing, basically nothing. They give you 8%, that is basically eroded. And that's eroded by inflation. And that is what the people need to bear in mind, Coretta.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sharma. I just want our viewers to look at this. We saw in Parliament, I think the operator is queuing that up, where Mr. Ali, who is now president, he was in Parliament and he was preaching a sermon that could have converted anybody. If you watched him there, you would have been converted right away. And then a couple of months after, you're seeing something totally different. Now you're wondering whether this is the same person. Operator, you have that? You're wondering whether this is the same person. Look at what we saw a couple of days ago. As a matter of fact, we saw this 8% retroactive increase for public sector workers. We saw this 2 years ago, 50% increase for public servants. And then we heard this one.
To increase the salaries of public servants by far more than 20%. By far more than 20%. Mr. Speaker, what about the nurses, the teachers? What about the police workers, the police officers? Aren't they equally important? Aren't they equally important? Mr. Speaker,
Yes, I was just saying this 8% retroactive that the president is here talking about. This was the very man who was concerned about the teachers and the nurses and the policemen and other public servants. But a couple of days ago, 8% as against what was promised, no less than 20, even though they had a 50% increase for public servants posted on almost every lamppost across this country. And then you saw this here. But we're trying to look at what is 8%, what does 8% mean for a regular public servant when we compare that to one, inflation, and two, the salary of the president and the prime minister and the ministers. What does 8% mean to the public servant and to them? How do we balance that scale?
Well, Coretta, I was there in the National Assembly as a minister when the then shadow minister of the PVPC for finance, Muhammad Ali, would make those laughable remarks. And you would have heard you would have heard the opposition is laughing, his own party, and the government is enjoying themselves because they know, this is total lie, shame, and disgrace upon the PPP. In 2015 budget and 2016 budget, those remarks was made, and one of the key points I drive home, and I would have probably posted that as the Equal Rights and Justice Party, because I found it very hilarious and make me laugh every time I listen and look at it. And is that this same individual now as president, as opposition finance shadow finance minister, he said he's fighting for collective bargaining. You are a trade unionist. You are a member of a trade union, and you know the history of the PPP in relation to collective bargaining. So he was jumping on the bandwagon of the Guyana Public Service Union, saying that, look, the public servant need a $100,000 minimum wage, and they need a 50% increase. And they would do it when they get into office. And you know the reality. This is not the first budget. This is the third budget. The
Yes.
first budget, what they gave us? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. I think they would have gave us, not us, but the public servant, a 25,000 bonus.
Bonus. Yes.
They didn't give them no increase in salary. Then in 2021, what they gave them? They gave them a 7%. The inflation rate actually was like about 5 to 6% at that point in time. So it didn't really mean anything. If you look at it, you could segregate that and say that actually would have given 3.5 for 2020, 3.5 for 2021. But come in 2022, the third budget, they gave an 8% across the board increase. How ridiculous. 1% more than they gave you in 2021.
Yeah.
And this 8% is coming on the backdrop of this government benefiting tremendously from the windfall from the oil and gas.
Yes.
Matter of fact, in the budget, they would have put like some $15 billion set aside for wages increases. And I'm a very outspoken person. I was saying to the union and the opposition, why you don't demand them that they utilize that money they have in the budget there now, that excess of 15 billion, to pay an interim increase to cushion the effects of the cost of living. Nothing was done, but that money, that 8% is coming from that money that was in the budget since 2022. It's not coming from the oil and gas money, the billion of dollars they collecting from oil and gas, and they projected to collect in excess of $1 billion alone this year from oil and gas. So you're not benefiting. So they're not saying to you, the people, how much this 8% transcends into the 15 billion they put aside for us. But the president said they're coming with more things for the public servants, more packages, and this is only the first phase. Well, no matter what phase he puts, still it wouldn't mean anything to the ordinary public servants. And Coretta, you should know that I could testify that being a member of the AP and UAFC government, a minister with some responsibility for the Ministry of Finance, it was tremendous that what we accomplished in those 4 years of producing budgets. 4 years we produced 5 budgets. And we couldn't produce the final budget because,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
what was the reality of the no confidence motion. But Coretta, our first budget was so amazing, and the people was so enlightened and so happy. It was unbelievable. Beans, you would not know because, of course, you weren't in the politics then. But I could tell you the reaction of the people when we announced that we will be given a 26.4% increase.
Mm-hmm.
And what that meant for their ordinary public servant, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So when we got into office, there were 2 minimum wage in the public service. One, there was a tort $9,540, and there was a far $2,703 that public servants was increasing. What we did is that we said from the onset, and this we took office in May the 16th, the Ministry of Finance, then Finance Minister, Winston Jordan, produced a budget in July. And you know what he did? You know what the government did? Is to move that minimum wage of 39,540 or 42,703, and we said right away it's 50,000. Right away it was 50,000. And so that person that was collecting that 39,540 automatically got $10,460 in their pocket. Just imagine one stroke of the pen.
Yep.
You give the poor person, that poor struggling public servant, that amount of money. And thereafter, from 50,000 going on to in excess of $1 million, the increase was 5%. But the increase, it was a formula. That is what the PPP don't understand. Although we gave 5%, it was more than 5%. Because if you recall, we gave a 5% and a $5,000. So when you calculate the increase on your salary, you calculate 5% for those who were getting 50,000 or more, and then you add a 5,000 to it. And that was to prevent the issue of bunching and, the scales going to bunch together and things like that. So we formed that separation. So that was the first set of increases, and that increases ranged from 26.4 to 5.5%. So those that was getting $1 million or more was getting 5.5%. When you add that 5% plus that 5,000. And then in 2016, Coretta, we didn't stop there. Matter of fact, let me go back to 2015. We didn't just give public servants that large increase of 26.4%. We look at sweeper cleaners. There's 1,000 sweeper cleaners was in the system at that time. I was the minister who used to deal with the unions. Right? So Minister Jordan would separate who dealing with the various agency consulting with the Ministry of Finance. I was the ministry identified to deal with the unions. So then, still the president of the union, Patrick Yard, and his team, a large team, they came and he spoke about the public servants, he spoke about what they want, and he did mention sweeper cleaners to us because he took up the mantle to represent them because they had no representation. 1,000 of them. We looked at it and we said we're going to give them 54% increase because the PPP treat them as casual worker, part-time worker, having sweeper cleaners only working 5 hours per day. And so when we moved that hourly rate from $203 to $312, we automatically at the end of the month put $16,350 in the pockets of those sweeper cleaners. Just imagine that. So we didn't stop there. Old age pension. That when we came in office was I think it was $13,125. That same budget, we made it $17,000. 17,000. So from $13,125 right away, within 2 months, $17,000. And people and the opposition had the audacity to curse us out. Because if you know President Granger, which I know you know him well now, that he's a man of equality. He wants to see equal treatment for all his people in the public sector, in the public service, traditional, non-traditional. And this was the driving policy at the Ministry of Finance. Whatever you do, you spread it equally amongst the people. And so when we put that old age pension to 17,000, what we did is deal with the inequality issues that the PPP had. The PPP would have given subsidies to old age pensioners for GPL, electricity, and GWI for water. But not every single old age pensioner received that subsidies. Right? So only 30% of the over 42,000 pensioners received that GPL electricity subsidy. And you know why? Because the pensioner would have to show that they have a meter in the name, they have their own property, or they're renting a property, right? Well, most of the pensioners live with the children. The meter is not in their name. They
Right.
can't benefit from the light and water subsidies. Some
Mm-hmm.
families live on the street, they're beggars, right? So what we did, just imagine, you said here, every single one of that 42,000 odd pensioners will get it. The pensioners in the interior don't have electricity coming to the home, they don't have running water. So all those indigenous community and people who are pensioners never benefited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Automatically, they're now benefiting because they have to show that they're living in a home, they have running water, they paying electricity bills. They automatically benefited. They start saving money because some of them that had children that don't pressure the parents allow the parents to save their money. And this was a spin-off, and that was only 2015. Old age pension public assistance moving from 5,900 to 6,500. When
Mm-hmm.
you have to imagine in 2015 alone, that measures that we put in place there for just salary, the impact it had. Also, it impact NIS because your minimum pension at NIS increased because minimum pension is equated to half of the minimum wage. Okay, so automatically you increase the minimum wage in the country, the minimum pension NIS is now increased by half of the minimum wage. So these are the spin-offs. So come to 2016, again, we gave very high increases, and it started at the lower end at 10%, and it went on to at the higher end to 1% for those that earn $1 million. And I must bring this point because a lot of people are going to want to say, oh, David Granger and his minister paid himself 100% and 50%. This was the propaganda of the PPP. Okay? But those increases I mentioned to you, the ministers never, or the president never benefited from it. So we never benefited from it. It was a one-off increase that the cabinet had considered then. And so all the increases that we had given in that 4 years, which totaled 77%, the president or his ministers or the members of parliament did not benefit from it. And that is what people need to understand, because as a junior minister, my increase when the cabinet increased that salary for the ministers was only 20%. Was 19 to 20%. I could recall that. I remember I am a number person, so I'm saying, why, Mr. President, do that to me? Because I would have happy to just wait for the board increase. So these are the things you need to consider. And in 2017, Coretta, and that, I have a reason why I'm saying 2015, 2016, 2017. And in 2017, we again give huge increases from the minimum of 8%. And in this case here, we stop at 0.5% for a person that earning $1 million. And over $1 million, the presidency is zero. Over $1 million, he had no increase. Okay, good. So why I mentioned those 3 years, because I want to match our 3 years with the PPP 3 years in office. So in our 3 years, we started out with a 26.4% increase in 2015. And again, in 2016, we gave 10%. And in 2017, we gave it 8% at the low end. Right? What did PAP give you in their 3 years? 0, a 7, and an 8.
And an 8.
Now, Coretta, you're speaking about inflation, and I'm going to match inflation. In 2015, the inflation was -1. So all that money that basically public servants receive, it was extra money. Nothing was compensated for, taken out for inflation. It was -1. Inflation was -1. People were saving in the country. People were spending. In 2016, the inflation was 0.84, less than 1%, and you got 10%. And in 2017, the inflation was 1.9%, and you got 8%. Contrast that with the PPP of 0%
Mm-hmm.
in 2020 and 2021 a 7%, where the inflation was like 6%, and come 2022 a 8%, where the inflation or food inflation is like 11%. Look at that, right?
Yes.
So look what we did, Coretta. This is what the people need to know. For that 3 years, we moved minimum wage from $39,540 to 60,000. The minimum wage at 2017 was 60,000. And if you look at the movement in terms of amount of money that you would have got in that 3 years, at the minimum, the lower end of the public servant got $20,406 more in the pocket. You know what it means? It transcends to over 51% increase because it have a rippling effect, the increases. So although you got 26 and a 10 and an 8, which would have give you 46, because it was compounded, you get 51%. What the PEP give you? They started out with a salary that we left of 70,000, and today with their 8%, you're now carrying home, not carrying home salary. Your gross is 89,900, which is a 19,900. You get in more from them. So you need to contrast that, and you're going to see what the AP and AFC did as a government, and we did this without any funds from the oil and gas.
I
And
was
this is
just
what
going to say
people
that.
don't understand. Correct? I have to take the questions and from you. So you please.
Yes, well, Mr. Sharma, I was just going to emphasize that point that all of the increases, those increases that we got under the coalition government, it was without oil monies. Now that we have oil monies, the residents, the citizens, everybody was expecting that come 2020, after we were plagued with the coronavirus, and you had to spend so much monies that you did not budget for to buy masks and hand sanitizer and more disinfectant to clean your homes and your yards and so on. Persons expected that, oh, we would have gotten a reasonable increase. What we got, zero in
Mhm, mhm.
2021, when everything in terms of cost of living skyrocketed. What we got, a meager 7% that was taxed. A meager 7% that was taxed. And the difference between the coalition government and the PPP is that under the coalition, it was done in steps, the increases. So the persons who earned larger, they got the least of the increase. And the persons whose salaries were the lowest, they got the highest of the increase. But what we are seeing here, the cabals taking the hag of it, they're enjoying the 8%, not the regular public servants. They're the ones enjoying the 8%. It's for them, their friends, and their families. And so the gap between the rich and the poor will continue to widen. The poor will never be able to catch up, not even to make it halfway to get to the level of the rich. And so we will continue to have our people living in poverty. Living in poverty. We have here the teachers. Look at what's happening to the teachers. Look at what's happening to the regular public servants out there, the sweeper cleaners, the nurses. All of these people got families. We just looked at a basket for four, a single mother and her three children. And when we would have completed that basket for four on basic items, it surpassed her salary of $172,000, $84,000, $96,000. It surpassed there because when you have to add rent and utility bills and transportation cost and the food, well, don't talk about food. That's a big man by itself. I was saying last week, a little cabbage this size, $2,000. Now you tell me how many ordinary poor, working class people can afford that.
Yes, Coretta, absolutely true. And I just want to let your viewers know some additional facts, and that is the PPPC ability to pay a much better increase in salary. As you know, we had the largest budget every year, yes, but the PPP topped that largest budget by bringing forward their largest budget because they benefited from the resources from the Natural Resources Fund. You know, they changed the legislation to suit themselves, where they took all the money, not some, all of the money, uh, to to basically pad the budget. They're not saying where the money is going, if it's going in wages and salary, if it's going in current expenditure or capital expenditure. It's just basically budget support because the PAP is producing budgets that have huge deficits, very huge deficits, and the deficits the money from the natural resources funds being basically taken up by the deficits. So the PVP is giving you an 8%, and it means nothing because it's eaten away by inflation. I explained to you it's how it eroded by the inflation. But you
Mhm.
know the PVP had the ability to pay much better than that. You know the PVP could have give you that 100,000 minimum wage if they wanted, because you know it is widely known and the PVP accepted that the economy, the GDP will be grown by 58%. Just imagine that. So if the GDP of the country, because of oil and gas, additional resources, will be growing by 58%, and the PPP have the largest budget ever of $552.9 billion, if I ever remember correctly. Now, if you look at the increase in the PPP budget compared to 2021, where it was $383.1 billion, and you subtract that from this year's budget of 552.9 billion, you will get 169 billion increase. Now they increased their budget for a year $169 billion
Yeah.
and giving you 8%.
And
That
giving 8%.
transcends to
Mhm.
they increasing their expenditure by
Mhm.
44%, right? But that is not true. They increased that budget actually more than 4%. So most of our economists would say to people that the PVP increased the budget by 169 billion, which is 4%. Is not true because you were sitting in the parliament maybe. Uh, I don't know if it's during the suspension. You were one of them suspended.
No, no.
Okay, good. You're a good girl.
Well,
So
I don't know how I was
so
spared.
so, so they came in August and they asked for supplementary provision. You remember that?
Yes.
And that supplementary provision is in excess of $4.8 billion. You have to add that to the budget. So actually, their budget is increased from the last year budget by a sum of 214 million, which is around a percentage in excess of 56%. But they're giving you 8%.
They given you 8%.
And the inflation that we experiencing is not because of no issue with war in Ukraine and Russia and because of fuel
No,
prices.
no.
It's because they are creating the inflation in the country. Any economist could tell you that the government is creating the inflation. And I would have mentioned before in programs like yours about the budget going to create economic genocide.
Yes.
I was the first. I'm hearing other speakers speaking about economic genocide. I'm happy because I saw that the expenditure of the PPP administration since they came into office in August of 2020 and the spending pattern continued in 2021 and 2022 and the remainder of the year, they're spending too much money. Okay, they are spending so much money that it cannot be absorbed properly in the economy. So there's excess cash out there. And that is what is causing the inflation, Coretta. So they're creating this issue of the inflation that we're experiencing here. And it is basically called demand pull inflation.
Mhm.
And demand pull inflation is when there's money out there, okay, in the hands of a few, and they're demanding the goods and the services that are limited. Now, why you think greens are expensive? You would have saw recently in the newspaper a couple months ago that tomato was $800 a pound, and they say it's because Exxon's worker purchasing out all the tomatoes.
Oh,
You can't remember reading that?
yes. Mhm.
Good. So when you have all of this cricket carnival and all these hotels putting up and all these tourists coming in the country, they're competing for those same food. So the PAP did not increase the food production. They're talking about increasing food production, but they didn't increase the food production because the foreigners that come into the country gonna want the best quality. So I was in the market purchasing tomatoes too, around that same time in the article. And I purchased in tomato $800 a pound. And my tomato have some sores in them, burn, the damage. Because it's selling the best to them and we are paying the same price, but we have to take what we get at the market. And so this is ridiculous. So the PAP is causing inflation by the amount of money they're pumping into the economy. And they should, and they're doing that because they want to fool the people, they want to win the next election and so forth, to continue to win election. But it comes with a cost, and the cost is inflation. And who's paying it? Not the government. It's we the people are paying that inflationary cost. So they're creating this inflation. And that is why I refer to this economic genocide in the various budgets that they prepare, because they're not equitably distributing the money uh, to the people, so it could cushion the cost of the rise in inflation. And that is the issue, Coretta. So they give you 8%. And here what they're saying when they give you 8%. I heard that they said that they give you 8% because they don't want to create inflation. Right? So, this is it. You know, they created it and then they tried to give you 8% for just level it out, basically.
But
And so Coretta, yeah, go ahead.
no, sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, and so Coretta, I said I would give you some figures, because I stopped at 2017 and we have to go to 2018 and 2019 our budgets and the increases that we gave. And in 2018, Coretta, we gave a 7% at the lowest level, and we gave a 0.5% again for those that was earning above $1 million. And you gonna remember this, Coretta, because we gave the teachers 12% for
Mm-hmm.
2016 and
Mm-hmm.
8% for 2018. And we,
Mm-hmm.
we give we give the teachers that because you were instrumental in having a nationwide protest
Yes.
against government. And
Mm-hmm.
and and that is what collective bargaining is about. So where's the unions? The unions could have forced the government hands to give the workers something better. Because look what you accomplished, right? It's not really the government didn't want to give the teachers that, but the multi-year agreement came to an end, and we had to negotiate. And I would understand you represent the teachers and you want your money, and you got something far better than, as I said,
Yes.
you were given 7%
Mm-hmm.
in 2018 when the teachers got 8, and we went back to 2016 and we gave a 12%. When in 2016 it was 10%. Why we didn't give for 2017? Because the teachers had benefit from 2017 the across the board increase. I was in the negotiation behind the doors when you had the meeting. I was the one who crunched the numbers, right? So I know the importance of collective bargaining. I know the importance of union taking the position and pressuring the government at the right time. And you choose the right time. And you benefited teachers tremendously with your hard work and dedication. Although it was a government that the teachers would have supported,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't hold back.
Mm-hmm. But
So why are they holding back with a government that they don't support?
what we find happening now is that the APNU government was a government that displayed democracy, freedom of speech, and the right to protest if things weren't going your way. What we find with this dictatorship cabal is that they know how they find ways and means to squeeze the teachers, to victimize them, deduct monies from their salaries. And because of cost of living and everything else that you have to pay, teachers are a little bit now more, teachers are very fearful. Even those teachers who are their supporters, they are talking all the time, but they are fearful of coming out there because one, they don't want their neighbors and so on to threaten them and to burn their homes and all kinds of things. Two, teachers are afraid that they're going to be, their salaries are going to be cut, that they're going to be transferred for no unnecessary reasons. And because we don't have a teaching service commission in place, we have seen lots and lots and lots of injustices being meted out to teachers all across this country, and the union has got to go there to stand up and represent those teachers. But let me tell you what, the fire is building, the water is boiling, and teachers are on the brink to break. Not only teachers, but public servants across this country. They can't deal with it any longer. And they are saying that we have to stand up, and we will stand up and let this government understand that they were the ones back then who were talking about collective bargaining and engage, you must engage the unions. And now that they're in the seats, they have forgotten those words that they were using. All of those sentences that Barra Jagdeo and all of them were pounding, they've forgotten it. Because I can tell you the teachers union in 2020, in 2021, and in 2022, they would have submitted in 2020, resubmitted it again in 2020, in 2021, and in 2022. Several letters were sent to the office of the president. And to date, not even an acknowledgement of those letters. And these are the people who talk about democracy. These are the people who talk about because we care. Because you care about who? The three F's: friends, families, and favorites. Because if you look at the increases and where the persons who are benefiting from the increases, you'll see it's as clear as day. More than that, it's a slap in the face of government, of all public sector workers. As a matter of fact, I need to bring to the floor this point, that this government is an anti-working class government. This government. Look at the increases. Look what our increases show here. And I know you're a man of figures. You would understand.
Well, Coretta, it's a good thing I have on my spectacles because the writing is very fine, and I'm seeing that you have some increases here attributed to the president, his ministers, and permanent secretaries and trained teachers, and the lowest earners, which show a tremendous gap.
Yes.
And that is exactly what you're speaking about. And I did mention during the 77% increase that we gave into public servants, the president or his ministers and his members of parliament never was part of it. Here, this increase is across the board. So the president himself is benefiting from it.
Yes.
And I believe that 144 that you put there for the additional per month for the president is not correct. It is more than that. For the ministers, could be more than that. Right? So the president's salary is probably close to $2 million. Okay, so 8% wouldn't put in there. Our minister salary is probably close to $900 to $1 million. So probably wouldn't put them there either. So the point I'm making, they're carrying home much more. In addition to this, Coretta, the president's salary is non-taxable.
Yes.
Yes. So I was viewing the president's opening remarks when they had the cricket carnival opening, and he came in and he dressed funny with a short jacket and a bow tie or something like that. Well, he looked like a clown, but he made himself a really clown when he said, he didn't say directly, he was on his stage and he was shouting. Apparently it was going to be drizzling. It was drizzling or something to the effect. and somebody was taking an envelope to his wife, the first lady, and he said to the person, "Take back that envelope, take back that envelope. She must feel what the people is feeling." so, so this guy, from there, I call the president the big show, right? Because he's a big show. This is the man who wants his wife to get wet and soaked by the rain, and he wants to feel what the people is feeling. But he is getting 8%, which will be equivalent to, say if it's 2 million, you could imagine what it is going to be. It's like 2 million itself you're going to get when his 12 months. Okay? It's going to be full 12 months you're going to get. So if you check 8% of 2 million multiplied by 12, it's going to be like 1 point something million dollars. And he carrying that home tax free. Why he didn't say here, I want to feel like the ordinary people. Take off at least the tax from his salary and say, no, I will pay my tax from now.
Or why didn't the president say, look, I'm going to take my
salary? I will not take the increase.
Or yes, I wouldn't take the increase, or I'm going to take the increase, but I'm going to distribute it to some workers.
Correct. Correct. So his ministers shouldn't be carrying the 8%. They should be probably carrying a 0.5%. Okay? Because they are at the highest end. And that money, that savings would have trickled down to the lowest end of the public servants. That would have been wise. But this is a man who was shouting in his stage that his wife, the first lady, must get soaked, and she must feel and experience what the ordinary people must feel, and dressed like a clown and behaving like a clown, and taking 8% for himself and don't pay no tax. And he comparing that. Sometimes I don't know if he should be treated like critic. So look at him dancing here. You ever seen President David Granger behaved in this manner? Where is the decorum of the presidency? And so, Coretta, again to the increases in salary of the AP and UAFC, and that 2018 budget brought the minimum wage to 64,200. And in 2019 is no other than the president himself, but I believe, if I recall correctly, the Minister of Finance had jumped the president and made some announcement. But the president nevertheless went and made an announcement. That is President David Granger. And he announced the increase of 2019. Remember, the 2019 basically was our last and final budget, because there's where the confidence would hit. And it's a good thing we decided to debate the budget before the no confidence, because the people of Guyana would not benefit from the increases that we had planned for them. And Coretta, in that budget, you got 9% at the lowest end, and you had 8.5% for a person earning $100,000 to $1 million. And guess what, Coretta? The president said all the back pay was tax free.
Yes.
Yeah, so all the increases was tax free. And I don't think people understand what that means. They're going to understand it now when they see the pay slip with 8% being taxed. Now, the president stopped there, Coretta, and this was important, because here is where the shadow minister, now president of Guyana, was speaking about the teachers. And what President Granger did in that 2019 budget was tremendous, because he did not only look at those increases, which was very generous. He also focused on nurses and doctors. I don't know. I know you don't represent them, but you should. I don't know if you recall what he did. He increased the allowances drastically.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I should recall that some of the allowance, like station allowance, was increased like about, I think it was $2,800, and he moved it to $10,000. 260% increase. The PPP and all the 23 years of government, one time they touch allowances and they never touch it back. Is when we came into office, we didn't touch it throughout too, but we looked at the nurses allowance in 2019. I make drastic change. like the hinterland allowance, which was two allowances they used to receive, 4,000, 12,000. The presidency, the 12, you're going to move to $24,000. Just imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
I got risk
100%.
allowance also.
Yes.
That was at $300. The presidency, it's $5,000, a 900% increase. We have uniform allowance again, and it was 13,000. We made it $22,000,
Mm-hmm.
and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And although we did all of this, you're going to tell me the turnout at the polls was as what is being declared?
Could never be.
So, um,
Never be.
so we did a lot, and we doing all of these things, right, without any money from the oil and gas. We saved the sugar industry. About 90% Indo-Guyanese, and 90% of them supports the PPPC. And
Mm-hmm.
when we got into office, is the CEO came to the Minister of Agriculture and say, here, if we don't get some bailout, we're going to close all the estates. And we say, no, wait. But it's a good thing they didn't ask me. I would have said, let it close. Honestly, I would have said, let the estate close now. Not to punish the people,
Mm-hmm.
but for them to realize who destroyed the estate.
Yeah.
Because when we start to pump the billions every month into the estate and we decide to shut three of them, we get the cost down. Right? The people say we don't like Indo-Guyanese people. We don't like the supporters of the PPP. But IMF was on our backs from 2016, 2017, even 2015. They say, here, you can't do this. Right? And so although we were giving Gaisuku $1 billion a month to keep them afloat, $1 billion a month, we went ahead and we went and had NISIL took a $30 billion more. So although they didn't get the money from central government, we put that assistance to the Gaisuku through NISIL. Well, NISIL and Gaisuku had their own fights, and
Mm-hmm.
and so but they got through it anyway. And even Central Housing and Planning Authority bailed out Gaisuku. I was the minister. I remember recalling that Gaisuku had money. The Ministry of Finance say we can't find the money. NISIL say they can't give the money. I say, wait, Central Housing and Planning Authority need lands. So take the lands from them and give them the money. And so $2 billion came from Central Housing and Planning Authority to Gaisuku, 2 billion, because they purchased lands. That's the same lands the PPP now have in the possession sharing out.
Sharing out. Yes. And
So
behaving.
it was
And
acquired.
behaving.
It was acquired under the APNU because it's in a way Central Housing and Planning Authority was building out Gaisuku. So people don't realize how much money we pumped into Gaisuku, right? So this is the reality. So we did all this and more, and we did this without money from oil and gas. And this is what the people need to consider. And consider that the PPP, even as we speak, have the ability to change this situation as we speak today. Take shame out of the face, the eye, or wherever the shame lies. And to say we're going to give a 20% more and make it 28%. I hope when Mr. President Mohammed Ali announced the tax-free bonus for the disciplining forces, that he would say they're getting 3 months. And I have a reason why that I say 3 months, because in 2020, he gave them only 2 weeks. And in 2021, he gave them a whole month. See, double it. So in 2022, it's only right for him to double it and give them, that 2 to 3 months, right? So I'm hoping to hear that he gave our police and army and fire service uh, officers 2 to 3 months tax-free bonus.
But you know, Mr. Sharma, while we're talking about both the police and the army and so on, we still need to remember the teachers. We still need to remember the nurses. But let me tell you, let me share this with our viewers. And I'm not being anywhere disrespectful here, or not that I don't recognize this group of people, but I recognize that the artists who performed at the carnival, cricket carnival, at the shows there, our local artists, their pay fees are now going to be doubled. So those who got 100,000, they're going to get two. They're going to get an extra 100,000. Those who got two, they're going to get four. And I'm saying, when we can do this, of course, we need to promote our local artists. We need to bring them out and showcase them more and pay them for what they do. But we have our nurses, we have our teachers, we have our other public servants who are doing what they are supposed to do, and they've always been doing, but yet this shameful government don't recognize the efforts of these people. They don't recognize them. And these are the things that we have to bring to the fore all the time. I know that our time is running out on us, but may I ask the president of this country, Mr. Ali, what offense the working class people in this country would have committed? What offense have they committed that you are treating them the way you are treating them, you and your ministers? Why are you treating them with such disdain? What offense have they committed? Because presumably they have been, it has been touted that they're supporters of the coalition. That is why you're treating them like that. But these are the very people who are causing the wheels in this economy to turn. But you know what, Mr. Sharma? Our people, I want to say this, that the people of Guyana will not forgive and forget the PPP government for what they did to them 23 years ago and what they are doing to them now. We will not forget the abuse that has been meted out to our women folk by the males in the PPP. We will not forget our many sons who have been killed under the PPP. We will not forget the hardship and all the poverty that is increasing under the PPP. We will not forgive them for that. We will not forget and forgive them for the lies that they continue to tell our people here and think that people don't understand what is happening. The president stood up there and he lied to this nation on 2 occasions. He lied to us when he said Charan Das is no longer the ambassador, and yet we are seeing an invitation where it is showing that Charan Das is the guest of honor. His Excellency Charan Das Prasad, High Commissioner of the Republic of Guyana, still sitting there in India. But our people will mark these things. Our people will not forget the brutal murders of the 2 Henry boys and Harish Singh. We will not forget those things. We will not forget the people at Success who the PPP government flooded their homes with those little children and those mothers there. We will not forget those things. My viewers, I hope you are taking note so that when they come around to tell you about voting for them, and when they come to offer you hampers like they're accustomed to be doing, suppressing our people and oppressing them by offering them hampers, a little hamper here and a little hamper there, and making a whole lot of promises to our people and not fulfilling them, you will say to them, when you go into those boxes, you know what exactly you have to do. Mr. Sharma, your closing remarks.
Yes, Coretta, thank you. And as I mentioned already, that if they had consulted me when there was going to be a Gaisuku, I would have said no, let it close. But thereafter, I would have said, okay, we're gonna put systems in place so that we could renew the arrangement with Gaisuku in relation to billing them out. So the visual picture would be there in the minds of people who really destroyed Gaisuku. And not just Gaisuku, the rice industry. When we took over, the Venezuela deal for rice for oil was no longer in existence. And again, you spoke about lies. They never tell the supporters guys who's failing. They never tell the supporters rice are failing. And if you had follow me, Coretta, you had known, probably you would have known that in one of the budgets, maybe it's the last budget, I believe so, was in 2019 budget. I coined the phrase "sweet lie alley" because I spoke, my speech as a minister of finance, minister within the Ministry of Finance, was to rebut him, and so I decided to target him, right? And his revelation about our budget, and I pinpointed everything that he said. It was a lie because he started out his debate by saying um, Winston Jordan budget is a big lie, a sweet lie, and I coined that phrase and said, "You were the one that's speaking the lie. You were sweet lie Ali," because everything in your debate was a lie. And thereafter, you would have heard that I would have said, I would have stepped down as a minister and make him the minister within the Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
It's for those same remarks that he made there, let him make the reality. So if you think that the government, no, in our own government, you would be seated as a minister of finance, a minister within the Ministry of Finance, you wouldn't know the numbers. You wouldn't know, you couldn't go and say to the people, we could have do better, we could have paid 50%, we could have give you 100,000 minimum wage. Things of that nature. So that was the kind of understanding. But it doesn't mean that I would have resigned as a member of parliament. We would still have our one-seat majority. But he would have had to change and come into our side as a minister.
Come into our side.
Right. And he couldn't speak lies because he was the biggest liar of all of them. So I wanted to stop the lies and shut his mouth by bringing him over to our side. And that was the kind of dynamics. In our AP and UAFC, I don't believe we had too many politicians because we never play politics. The PAP play politics, but we never play politics. We were very honest. We were very honest, and we never play politics. As you said, David Granger would allow people to call him names and cuss him out on television, radio, and cuss out his government. Never one day took anybody to court for libel. Even when they threatened his life.
Yes.
You saw his reaction. And you saw the police reaction. Right? So, and this was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and then cadre of the hierarchy of the police wasn't in support of doing anything for deal with the attempted assassination of the president. So you could understand the environment that this AP and AFC government was working under.
Yes, and then
Let
me interject. We had a man of unsound mind in Nabacalis or somewhere there who spoke out against the killing of that young Bacchus's boy, and he said what he would have done, he would shoot the president or something like that, and he was dragged out by the police. They went to look for him, and he was placed before the courts, and then the medical records had to show, look, this is a man of unsound mind. But these are the people who we have to deal with. This radical, ruthless, and cruel regime that we have to deal with. They don't care about little babies. They don't care about women. They don't care about anybody. But like everything else, I'm hoping that our viewers are watching and they are taking note. Mr. Sharma, our time is upon us. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know that our viewers were having their comments there and they did enjoy the program. We're going to bring you back so we can talk some more as against inflation. Before we go, let us wrap up with a little video we have there from Glenn Lal. Viewers, thank you for watching. Remember, COVID is on the rise. Stay safe and be careful. We'll go out with that video.
Thank you.
Hospitals storing infectious syringes and dirty needles in Coke bottles and plastic cans. Is this where our health sector has arrived at? As the fastest growing economy, according to the World Bank? No, man, no. It can be. The Auditor General's report revealed that today. Looks, it's in the Kaicho News. And here it is. ExxonMobil reinvesting hundreds of US millions of our money to make more money for themselves, while Guyana borrowing loans to pay interest. You gotta love these bourgeois clowns we have here for leaders. In 2021 and
Thank you for watching our program. See you right back here, same place, same time. And remember, hold the line of battle, comrades. Our victory is sure.